The guy in the cubicle next to me made about $400,000 a year. Tesla in the parking lot, houses in Palo Alto, and kids in private school. When he got laid off, he had to sell his house within 4 to 5 months. I was definitely making less than him at that time, but I drew a Toyota which was old and it was already paid off. And I was living in an apartment and sending my kids to the public school system while I was on dialysis and still working. But I did not panic because I had a lot of money saved, all from the W-2 salary that we get. And here is the thing, I started my career as a dishwasher when I was in grad school. So, hey people, welcome back to my channel. I'm a 45-year-old software engineer, immigrant, and have been in tech for around 20 to 22 years. I came to America a long time back in early 2000s. I washed dishes as a part-time job for 8 to 9 months. I had no big family money, no safety net, and no connections. Just a degree and desperate need not to fail. And over the years, I watched something strange happen. Not to everyone, but to a lot of people. I watched people who made 3 to 4 times my compensation live paycheck to paycheck, right? And how is that actually possible? So, and when layoffs came, I always saw them panic. While I was hooked to the dialysis machine 3 times a week, barely able to function, I watched layoffs happen all across around me. Healthy engineers making 300, 400K a year, and they were absolutely terrified. Despite making those massive salaries, they had nothing saved. What I watched my friends and some of my co-workers do is this. So very first thing is a house trap. Some of my friends, or rather not friends but acquaintances, bought 2.5 to 3 million houses in the top most neighborhoods with great schools and amazing neighborhoods and all their friends living close by. But the mortgage itself was about $12,000, sometimes coming to like $15,000. And if you combine all the property taxes and all the insurance things and all the fees and maintenance, I'm pretty sure they spent north of $18,000 per year just to live in that house. On paper, they could afford it, but they were really house poor, and all these people who bought these houses were making great compensations at that time. And it makes sense if you make a lot of money, like you have to make like a really lot, like 7 figures to able to comfortably afford those houses. But people who are not making that kind of money, who are in that bracket, who make enough but not enough to afford those kind of houses, were the ones who were kind of house poor. And here's what, when they bought the houses, what they didn't account for: layoffs. Remember, 2022 was the peak housing market. Everybody was buying houses because interest rates were low and they were expected to go up. And in 2023, layoffs happened, right? So people didn't plan for it, and people actually purchased houses that they could not afford, essentially. So what happened in 2023, people got laid off and they could not afford the house. They had to scramble to find new jobs, and the jobs were not at the compensation level at the previous compensation level. So suddenly they became house poor, and all their disposable income were going towards mortgage. People just needed their salaries just to keep the house. In this case, the house owns you, and the person doesn't own the house. Another thing I saw was a car trap. In many of my friends or acquaintances or the people in the neighborhood that you watch, you saw them buy very expensive cars between $60,000 to $100,000 cars, Teslas, BMWs, Mercedes, Audis. The lease payments between $800 to $1,500, insurance costs $400, maintenance, registration, parking. They would say, and their mindset was, oh, I make money, I can afford it. But they could until they couldn't. One person I know who bought a Tesla Model X for around 120K, beautiful car, fast, status symbol. But he got laid off within 8 to 9 months. Meanwhile, we are still driving, or I'm still driving an older, a bit older, but completely paid off Toyota RAV4 or a Honda Civic. It's completely paid off, runs fine, gets me to places. And I was on dialysis for 2 years after that, barely functioning. I didn't have that $1,500 car payment bleeding me dry. So that comes to the next point, the lifestyle creep. When you start making more, you start keeping your lifestyle to match your new income. Lunches out every day, DoorDash dinners, weekend brunches, whole food runs, and every bit adds up slowly. It adds up $3,000, $4,000, or $5,000 a month just on food. I watch co-workers or friends or acquaintances spend more money on food than the entire mortgage payment in some other parts of the country. So when you're making that kind of money, like what's $50, $80 here and there, right? And stuff is also gotten expensive until you lose your job. And suddenly you can't turn it off, you can't dial it back. And that's what also is happening to people right now. Another thing that people don't think about is the FOMO trap. All these new investment concepts or rather investment vehicles being in the news, like all this angel investing, NFTs, Wall Street bets. Engineers would get their RSUs vested and they get lump sum of hundreds of thousands of dollars in their account. They don't know what to do with it. They started investing in random stuff, and some of them got lucky and made a lot of money, which set them up for life, but most of them failed. And this is called FOMO. So that also affected a lot of people. Another guy who invested like $50,000 to $60,000 into a friend's startup, and he lost it all because startups by definition are in a failure mode most of the times until they become successful, and 99% of the startups fail. And if you are just a software engineer who do not have enough savings or net worth, you should not be doing angel investing. Angel investments are for professional investors who have good amount of money, good amount of time, so that they can make hundreds of investments over hundreds of companies. It works on that scale. It doesn't work at your individual scale. And here's what I did differently and why. I did the opposite of all that. Not because I'm smarter, because I have an immigrant and scarcity mindset, and an immigrant cannot afford to fail because they have left everything behind and came to the country. So what helped me was a forced disciplined approach, because there was no safety net. There is no going back to parents' house because there is no parents in the country. There is no family money to bail you out because there is no family in the country. There is no, I will just take a break and figuring out, because once you fail, you are done. Your visa status is no longer applicable, and then you might have to go back. You could lose everything tomorrow. So I kept my expenses low. I rented for years, even when everything said you are throwing money away. When I finally bought a house, we were in a very comfortable position, and we bought a house lesser than our lesser than we bought a house, cut. So finally, we bought a house which was lesser than our budget, because I had an inkling that if I buy a house just at our budget or out of a budget, and if there's ongoing layoffs, then we will be in big problems and there will be too much stress. I drove cheap cars, cars that were not that expensive, or if they were expensive, or just regular cars, no luxury cars, and we just paid them off as soon as possible. I saved first and spent later. Here's the thing nobody wants to really hear: you can't lifestyle inflate your way to wealth. I saved approximately 25 to 40% of my income. Every paycheck, money went straight to savings and index funds. What was left, we lived on and spent it. It was not the other way around. And over the period of years, this discipline starts adding up. So, on an average software engineering salary of Bay Area, I was able to save 40 to 50% for the last 10-15 years, and the compounding interest, even though it's boring, but it started working in my favor. I avoided speculative investments most of the times. I didn't angel invest. I bought some crypto, but not a lot. I didn't chase 10x returns because I didn't know how to chase it. And did I miss on a Bitcoin gains? Sure. But I also avoided losing a lot of money on the stupid crypto coins. And when you can't afford to lose, you never gamble. And this saved me during my dialysis days. From Jan 2023 to 2025, I was in dialysis 3 times a week, 4 hours per session. I could barely think, brain fog, exhaustion, and so on. I was basically shell of myself, but I didn't have to worry about money part. I just had to worry about my health part, my family part, and the mental anguish that comes with being really sick. Now, here is an uncomfortable truth. If you're making like 300 to 400K a year, and you don't have at least one year of expenses saved, you're not rich. You're just living an expensive lifestyle. You have high income, but you have no wealth. And when the layoffs come, and they always come, you can't cut your expenses fast enough. You can't downgrade a $2.5 million house overnight. You can't cancel the lifestyle overnight. So you start panicking. So what I learned, obviously I didn't do everything right. Maybe I saved too much, maybe I worried too much, but it worked for me. So it has worked for me so far. This gave me options, or this would give me options if I get laid off. This built me financial independence. This gave me something that my high earning coworkers or friends did not have. So, final thoughts. I don't know if you should live the way I did, because it's kind of hard. Maybe you should buy the nice house, drive a nice car, enjoy money while you can, go to eat nice food, go to vacations more often, go to luxury vacations. Life is short. I understand. But I will tell you this: when the problem comes, you need to have enough savings or net worth so that you have options to explore. And if you can do that and do all the other stuff, then that's what you should do. You should not do it the other way around. You should not spend first and save later. So when I was in dialysis, I wasn't scared of being broke. I was scared of dying, and that was enough. I didn't need to add financial panic on top of it. So maybe the question isn't how much can I afford to spend. Maybe it's how much do I need to save so I never have to be afraid. For me, the number was high. Maybe for you it's different, but it's a figure. But you figure it out. But figure it out before